In this episode I want to talk about gaze balls or reflector balls, mirror, spheres, whatever you like. And I have explored this area, of course, with very tiny ones, which I call then the teacup panoramas. And of course the idea would be the bigger they are, the better it is. And that is not always really true, because when we use, for example, something like this here, in this place that I have shown you before, which was done with a fisheye, by the way, just to give you an idea about quality, because this here is already not really the quality that I would love to have. And this is a 10-inch glass ball, and it has the mirror stuff inside. That is why it has here this rubber lid on it, because there should be no moisture inside, otherwise it falls all apart after a while. And the problem here is, of course, that there's always a little bit reflection from the glass, and then after the glass thickness has stopped to the inside to the silver material, we have another reflection. So there's always a little bit light game in the glass and between the two reflections. Then they are not really perfect. And so the whole purpose of this stuff here is, of course, not to produce high quality panoramas. I do not get anything out of it that I can shoot with a real lens and with a panohead, for example, or even with a fisheye, where the resolution is already low, but the quality is fairly good. What we get here is something that we can use to get working. It's very fast in the production, and of course, perhaps when you have a camera that can produce maybe 18 stops or 20 or something like that, then you can shoot with something like that directly HDRI, and you have even film inside of Cinema 4D with HDRI, and you can illuminate maybe a scene where something is moving around. Okay, you can see here I have a lot of stops here already, and it's not completely black, it's not completely white here. Yeah, here maybe, perhaps. But so we can say we have nearly 14, maybe 15 stops here inside of this scene. And we want to use this, of course. First of all, when we have here an image with normally roughly 20 something megapixels, and the sphere would touch the top and the button, then we can say mathematically we have roughly 50% for the sphere only. So we have only 10 megapixels if that sphere would really cover the maximum space here. And that is really not a lot. And in this size we have maybe, and that is just an estimated guess, 8 megapixels or so for the whole world roughly. And that is not sufficient for pretty much anything except for the light capturing. And there it might be even perfect, because it's fast, and wherever you need this, this would work. And we want to talk, of course, about panoramas. They mustn't be always 360 by 180 degrees. They can be also in this form, and that is why I'm talking about. So when we take then here just the crop around this, we get something like this, and I have darkened here the areas, and we can just check out what we got here. So there's a lot of light in it, even if I don't look directly into the sun. And there is, of course, in the shadow areas also a lot of information, which you see here, and now I lose it. That is pretty much a lot, because I guess these sliders here go roughly 20, negative 20 plus or something like that. So we have here quite some stuff in it, and we want to use this. And you know maybe my opinion about digesting these stuff into other formats and so on. Every time we move a pixel we lose quality, and the quality is here already on a critical low level. So my first idea is, of course, how can I use this information directly in Cinema 4D? And I do not have in mind that we get here at any time something absolute useful out of it, because we have here already this glass stuff, a little bit bumpy, and yeah, you get already the point. So let's have a look what we can do in Cinema 4D with it. But before we do so, we take a look here what finally then plugin can do with this stuff, which is pretty similar to the one that we have in Cinema 4D, but just for the fun, flaming pair again, Flexify 2. And here we have something that is called the mirror ball as input. And then we get here exactly this as export. And of course, you should have then always enough space here, because otherwise it's just very small. And it's maybe not so far away from the real quality that the whole chrome sphere here finally produce. So just in comparison, one time this, I should have offset a little bit, and then this. It's a different light color. Okay, I have shot this a day later, so that's maybe not really a critic point, but you see the quality is really low, and this is 50% and this here is only 25%. So I could go here even larger and larger and larger until I get something similar here. Okay, so that would be the first test that we don't have really quality in it. The only quality here is exactly in the light. So let's have a look in Cinema 4D, and first of all, what we can do here with our probe light, as I call them, because it's one shot only, it's not from two sides and then merged, because I want to avoid the processing stuff here. And you see already here the ghosting of the leaves and everything. Not very funny. And here the distortion from the glass, it's not really precise. A real chrome sphere in steel or brass would be nicer. So the first thing that I want to do, and even if I don't use it, is here to go to the picture viewer just to refresh this. And I have loaded this picture already in to not waste more of your time. It's pretty much exactly the same like from the Flexify, but here it really maximizes the size, and this is certainly here over the top. I don't think that we get this huge amount of pixels finally out of it, but why not? We can shrink this all the time, and we see here we have here a lot of problems. And you can imagine when we go from a spherical then to this, we have certainly a loss, because all these few pixels that we have left are moved around and get mixed up with the neighbors. That is maybe not bad here in this area where we have a similar light situation, or here in these larger areas, but with very fine details we run into something that is certainly not nice. So the idea that I want to present here is of course something that I haven't seen anywhere else, so I'm pretty happy to give you that. And the first idea is that we take here a sphere. That's maybe pretty obvious, and I increase here the segments to a very high number. You can't see a thing here, so I go here to Guru shading with lines, and what I want to have here is, of course, I want to see one of these pole caps. Let's use this one here, and perhaps I used the wrong one, but I don't care, we can fix this later. What I do here now is to go and make this editable, and that is the reason why I have so many segments in it, because I lose the option for the perfect sphere. But what I gain here is the option to just go here into that one and just delete them. So, and what I have done here is something that works now to my advantage. Before I had a system of UVs which were pretty much connected, and in the middle point here that I have just deleted, we had always a problem, and I show you exactly which problem that was, because I want to give you now something that is maybe a little bit unusual, and from the start it's not precise again, and I will show you how we can adjust this later on. So first of all, I need now here in my luminance channel the probe, or probe light as I call them, because they are not really a probe as the definition would be 360 by 360. It's a little bit less, 300 by 300 I would guess. So we have that now inside, and linear color space, everything is fine, everything is perfect. We bring this on it, and then we get something that is absolutely not usable, because it looks more like a sports ball. Okay, so first thing that we need to do is to go to the tag here and then change this to shrink wrap. And then we get something completely different already. So I go here for a moment back to my standard projection, and I want to see what I got here. So is that exactly? I would think so. So we have now here the borders from that image exactly on the back side where we wanted to have it. And I use here maybe the shortcut number 3 and move this around a little bit. And then you can see here already that we have here a nice front view from the side that we had before. And I would think that's okay. From the outside, from the inside, it is mirror-sided. And so we have to change maybe here the tiles to -1. And then we get hopefully exactly what we had before as well. So this is the back side and this is the front side. Maybe a little bit confusing at the moment. And what I want to do here is, of course, for the purpose of this tutorial, to increase here the size of the texture. So we recognize this much better. So, and now I do something that is maybe even for everyone a little bit unusual. We go directly to Body Paint UV Edit. And here we go to show UV mesh. And what I need here is, of course, to click here, click there, and try again. UV mesh. And here it is. That is now based on the -1. So I go here again, take this out for a moment to make our life here easier. This is now the mesh. If I hadn't deleted the little pole cap on the other side, we wouldn't get here this disk for the whole thing. And of course the beauty is now with the shrink wrap, this works here exactly to my advantage. Let's check here the texture on. So we can see this here. Texture. This is now my texture, and that is how I have projected this on it now. What I want to do here is, of course, that I go now back to my startup user. What I do here now is to go to my texture mode. And what I want to have here is, of course, that I select now all these polygons in this way. And I have set here this to shrink wrap. And then I go to text and say assign UVW coordinates. Nothing changes except for the projection. It's now back to UV. Okay, so that was one step just to make clear what we are doing here. So now all these polygons here are UV polygons in the right way. That's nice, but not really helpful, because I want to adjust exactly where everything is. And I do this by just selecting the sphere, go to text here, even in Body Paint UV Edit we have that. We go to character tags and to pose morph. And in pose morph I check here UV on. That's the first step. The next step is that I go to my UV mapping, to my UV manager here, and I use here the relax option. Click apply, and you see here the mesh has changed dramatically. And to make that more visible, I take here the texture out and I go to my little pose morph, go to animate, and now you can see what I'm doing here. I can now adjust here exactly where my texture is, how it wraps around and how it is projected here. And very carefully, and the beauty is I can do that even in the opposite direction. So I can overshoot here, or I can go beyond 200%. So I have here now really a projection machine for shrink wrapping. And that works to my advantage. So we can go back to startup user, and I go here to my front view, click here on option to see what I have, and I have to rotate the whole thing here, of course. It's now a little bit out of order. So this should be here the right way, 90 degrees. And all these selected polygons are completely in my way at the moment. So I check them off. And I can see I have now here a fairly good projection of my sphere here. And this without, excuse me, and this without even going into a conversion of all these pixels. Each pixel is untouched, it's not mixed. And when we render it, then it becomes mixed with the rendering. So it's a one-time conversion from this projection to the picture that we see at the moment. And when I take a camera, and I put this here to 0, 0, 0, so it's inside, and I go here to the inside, and I take a wider lens here, go to coordinates, and use here the H, then I can see here pretty much around. Isn't it fantastic? Just with one shot, and it looks not so shabby. And now I do something that you can do as well. We can move now here the texture in the way you want in both directions, so you can adjust this. And here you see already we run into the problem that when we go into negative, we increase on the back side that little area here, and I'll show you that. That goes a little bit big. But you see already we can adjust this now in the nicest way here. And whatever we need, if we want to do it a little bit more, a little bit less, that is workable. Back to the first problem, it was mirror-sided inside, so when I put this here to 1, it flips to the side and we can work with it in the same way as before. No problem with that. I think that's a very fast and very undestructive way to use one single chrome ball shot. I'm pretty happy that I found that. I will build something similar finally with an fisheye, but the projection is then completely different. Shrink wrap is then not the case there. And by the way, when you use here the pose morph exactly in this way, with the UV, maybe with 1 or 2 sliders, you can create for a card, for a plane, exactly an lens undistortion or lens distortion tool to put a texture on it and distort this in the same way. And I like that. Okay, thanks for listening. Have fun with it. Bye bye.